welcome to the Australian Herpetoculture podcast. How you going, buddy?
Good, mate. Good. How are you?
Good. That was almost a slip then.
Almost. I
I
was going to let it slide, but you made a laugh at it, so I'll have to poke fun at you now.
That's what, 2 now. We'll keep count. It'll be a little tally. We'll have to do a drink at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Or 100th. Jeez, we'd be coming up to a year, wouldn't we? That's not far now.
If my memory serves me correct, I think this is episode 43.
Yeah.
So we're getting there for sure.
Yeah. Time flies and you have fun.
It's pretty crazy, really.
Yeah, I know. Started as a bit of a chat and then you want to do a podcast? Yeah, let's do it.
I think the funniest part is even though we record these podcasts, and let's say they go for an hour or two, especially if it's just you and I, there's like another hour or two either side of it where we're just mucking around, chatting.
Well, we've definitely been half an hour already.
Oh, yeah, since we've originally jumped on. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's good, man.
I'm busy. Happening, mate. Busy?
Well, as we kind of alluded to last week, I've got a baby on the way. So that is, I think we'll talk about it a little bit more now, maybe, just because it's all out in the open. Thank you.
Obviously, I've already said it. I've known for quite a while. But
I think you knew since, we found out pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah, I think it was, yeah.
Because I was shitting myself.
Yeah, you were, actually, that's right. But, so you've got, that's, now everyone probably knows why you're downsizing.
Yeah.
Doing all those different things. It kind of makes sense to a few people now as well.
Exactly. It was one of those things where I kind of wanted to do a bit of a downsize anyway and take a little bit of pressure off myself, but this is a major reason to do it. So good reason to do it.
Definitely. If you think of your space and this and that, that's pretty much the reason why I got rid of everything too. It was time, and then we obviously had our first kid, and it was just hectic. I didn't have time. Obviously, because I was working long hours in the city as well, that didn't help. So it was I just never had time. So I was in a way, I've said numerous times, I wish I didn't get rid of everything. I wish I kind of did what you did, just got rid of the stuff that I wasn't so interested in. I was still interested in, but, it wasn't stuff that I'm kind of getting back into now.
Yeah. I'm kind of lucky in that sense where I'm learning from your, not mistakes, but what you've done, your process. And I've gone, I think I'll drive myself mental if I was to get rid of everything. So this room that I'm in is definitely staying.
Yeah.
The other room is a little bit sketchy as to what's happening. So I'm starting to empty that a little bit. It is what it is. At the end of the day, I'm excited about it. I am obviously doing a lot of stuff in this room. I just saw a hopping mouse jump onto the ceiling of the enclosure. So it's it's been busy. I've been selling animals left, right, and centre, and trying to organise people. And obviously you've got a whole heap of them, so at least I know they're in a safe spot. So it is kind of crazy though. Went out and got the family car on the weekend. So biggest and most expensive car I've ever owned.
Good car though.
Yeah, so it seems pretty solid. But it's just trying to line everything up. Even when was it? Yesterday, I bought my first box of diapers and nappies. I was looking at these things and I'm like, I don't even know how to operate one of these.
Mate, you get a crash course really quick. I remember, I don't know if it was the first time, because obviously there was we had a few. There was a couple of not complications, but when my son was born, and my wife wasn't she didn't come straight to see him. She was up for a couple of hours before she came in. Yeah. And I remember it wasn't the first time I changed his nappy, but it might have actually been the next day. I was so sleep deprived. Obviously my wife was too. And then I took his nappy off and I just forgot to put one back on. And I'm standing there, I'm holding him, he feels different. I'm like, what the heck? And it's because obviously you're holding, you can feel the nappy down there. I'm he feels different. What's going on here? And I laid him down. I didn't put a bloody nappy on him. I'm so I just, put it on and then,
I've been trying to, as I've been saying to you, I've been buying a bit of camping gear and stuff because I think that's kind of my saving grace is I want to try to be able to get out on the weekends and stuff and just experience nature a bit more. Wife's kind of trade-off, if I'm going to stay living in Sydney, then I need to be able to get out of Sydney on the weekends. That's my idea anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, yesterday, so I bought a bunch of camping gear, and I was like, oh, I'm going to be in so much trouble when I get home, because Dan's been putting the pressure on. She's like, no, we need to start buying baby stuff. So came home with a big box of diapers, came back with, like a whole bunch of like neutral colored onesies and stuff like that, because we're leaving it as a surprise, like little beanies and just like little clothes and stuff, just so we've got something for when the kid first comes home. And she pretty much went into like a happy tears meltdown as soon as she saw all that sort of stuff. Like her emotions are on an all-time high.
Yeah.
But it's quite cool to see her. Look, I just felt weird walking around the shops with like all these little tiny clothes.
Yes.
I was like, this is actually me now. I'm gonna have to get used to this. But
and then you wash them and hang them out, and you're used to hanging out like big t-shirts and like shorts, and then you're hanging out these like tiny little t-shirts and singlets and onesies, and you're like, a load of baby clothes washing is nothing compared to your load of washing. So like you do a load of washing and you're like, it looks really empty, but like you look how much clothes is actually in there compared to say your clothes. It's like, what the heck?
A bit of a weird out, really.
It is, but it's the best thing you'll ever do, I reckon.
Yeah. No, I'm excited. I'm really pumped because, especially after watching you and your kids and stuff like that, and how Julesie's getting involved with like, your dragon eggs and stuff like that. He's getting excited by everything. I can see my future going that way. And like I came home with one of those like daddy baby carriers where you can like carry the kid on your chest or whatever, facing forward or backwards or whatever.
Yeah.
And Dan's like, oh, you got one? And I'm like, yeah, well, it's going bushwalking before its bloody eyes are open.
They're so good, those things, eh?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't know.
Those carriers.
But,
they're amazing. Amazing.
I thought I'd get one because I'm like, I'm not going to stop bushwalking. And if I have to look after a kid, then the kid's coming with me. So,
but that's a thing. Like, say if, because it's obviously hard on your missus and that. Like, you can just go for a walk with the baby and, Danny could sleep. Like, one thing everyone tells you is you don't get much sleep, but then you don't realize how much sleep you don't actually get until you have one. But like, that hour or something that Danny gets is like gold to a mother. Like, because they're obviously, my wife breastfed, so it was a bit more, if our kids were bottle fed, I could probably get up and do it. But when they're breastfed, I couldn't do anything. And then you get to a point like you'd wake up, but then it gets to a point where like, that you don't have to wake up, like, so you just kind of start sleeping through all that stuff, and then you feel bad at the end of the day. Like, but I was back at work and that, but it is what it is. Like, I can't do anything anyway.
Yeah.
But that during the day, if the baby's like nap time, and say if the baby falls asleep when you carry him, just go for a walk, and then Danny can have a nap, and you're going for a walk in the bush, and everyone's happy. Baby's asleep, you're getting your nature fix. Yep. Danny's getting sleep, like, it's the best of both worlds. So
well, that's the idea. We'll see how it actually plays out at the end of the day. But yeah, hopefully that's all that kind of happens. But really excited, really excited. So she's 22 weeks this Thursday. So by the time this podcast comes out, she would have cracked that. So yeah, she might go a little bit early because of the gestational diabetes that she's unfortunately got, but. Yeah, about end of July or early August, I'm going to have a child.
You just feel like, what the heck do I do with this?
What size rat do you take again?
Yeah, that's right. How many days incubation was it?
Does the temperature determine sex?
Yeah. Yep. Oh, man. There's some awesome jokes. But you'll love it, man.
That's why I had a laugh when I put it up on my Facebook page. I'm like, I've got to make this a little bit hilarious and at least make it a little bit reptile related, and threw a bunch of those jokes in about becoming a proven breeder and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
I know. Good fun. Anyway, we're not here to talk babies. 10 minutes in, we're still waffling on around my unborn kid. So what's been happening on your end of this stuff? You've got a few new products there, don't you?
Products, yes. I bought a bunch of Miss King nozzles. Well, I shouldn't say Miss King nozzles, should I? They're some nice generic nozzles, but they're awesome, because I'm struggling to find them anywhere, man. And I had one, but obviously I need a few more.
Yeah.
But then I jumped online and bought these, but you just got to test them out and
see how they go.
Like post some pictures up and do that thing a bit later on. See how they go. So, but then I think my Mist King might have shut itself. Coming in, I'm like, I might just do another bit of a spray. Turned it on, nothing happened. So I might have to give that a quick look after this. Make sure it's not a pump down. So
hopefully it's just a clogged line or something along those lines.
Has to be something like that. Something easy, I reckon. They're pretty solid pumps. They don't just like it's actually like you can hear it.
Yeah.
There's just no water coming out. Some might have might even have blocked nozzles too. Who knows?
Yeah.
Bit of crap in there. So
you haven't turned off a tap somewhere? You know, like sometimes you get like a tap out of the reservoir or anything. You've checked all those?
I checked that one, yeah.
Yeah.
Blew the line, but we'll have a look. I'll have a bit of a better look after. So
yeah.
But I've got another book coming too.
Do you?
Yeah.
What'd you get?
So the only book in the Danny Brown series that I don't have was the Turtles one.
Oh, yeah.
And that one's been sent today, thanks to Nigel.
Sweet.
So he
Nigel Sauer?
I was like, yep. I was like, I need that one. Jumped on it straight away. So the only one I don't have. But now, I completely forgot about that one too. So I was like, I thought I had the whole set, but clearly I was wrong. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah. What about you? You picked up some new books too, didn't you?
Yeah, I got a bunch of books. I'm actually trying to find another one. Maybe I've left it on my bedside table. But yeah, no, I got the Green guides to snakes and other reptiles of Australia, frogs of Australia, and mammals of Australia. So the snakes and frogs are by Jerry Swan, and the mammals of Australia is by Terence Lindsay. But they're just like little pocket guides, essentially. I actually got these from... Where did I get them from? Dorrigo, when I was with Todd. Yeah, because we were going through there and they had like a mad rangers kind of stationy thing in the national park there where they had a whole bunch of products and kind of went mad and just bought a whole bunch of little guides. And I also got this Reptiles of Australia by Peter Rowland and Chris Farrell, the Naturalist Guide, the Australian National Geographic. Just didn't have that one.
That's the first edition one, I think. There's two versions of that.
I think so, because I think I've got the other one here somewhere.
It's a blue one, I think.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
But no, I just saw it and I was like, oh, these are all pretty cheap little books, and end up grabbing them. I actually, like, honestly, I reckon if I had $1,000 that I could just blow, I would have blown $1,000 on the books there, because they had some really mad books on like rainforest plants and trees and stuff like that as well, which were, like $50, $60 books. And like all sorts of other stuff, like birds, whatever. Like they had such a it was like half a library there, But yeah, I reckon if I just had $1,000 to burn, I could have easily done that just on books there. Yeah, it's really good. And it was kind of crazy because Todd and I have just walked around the whole rainforest during the day, and then come back out and found that, and we're like, oh, sweet. And I know
treasure chest.
Yeah, Todd picked up like a little. I think it was like a plant guide that one of the rangers in that particular station had actually nutted out himself, and he'd like done all the plants from the rainforest or as many certain species or something like that.
I'd love to see that book.
See, it wasn't like a book; it was like a portfolio that somebody that had made. Yeah, so it was like all like handmade, obviously just printed out on a computer or something like that. But it was really cool, and when Todd was purchasing it, the guy that was behind the counter was like so stoked that Todd was getting it too, because you could tell that like obviously that meant the most to them there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty cool.
See, that's awesome. Like obviously the plants are in that region, so it's almost like you go on a holiday and you're buying something that's from this, like people buy postcards and stuff like that, but that is a part of that region. And if you keep species that are in that region, and you want to do naturalistic or bio or whatever, you've got like almost a list of plants that are in that region, if you can find them, obviously. But, it can help you with your setups. You can identify plants as well,
Yep.
If you're walking through the bush, you can be like, oh, yeah, identify a bunch of the plants as well.
I actually thought it was really crazy because they had a bunch of the rainforest plants, like tube stock plants, for sale out the front of this place. But it was like a cash-only donation. And COVID, no cash.
No cash, yeah.
Todd and I were both looking at each other because I was like, oh, well, these would be perfect for like boids and green trees. And he's going, my geckos, thinking about that side of things, of course. And like, yeah, if I had $50, I would have just given it to him so he could have gone nuts, because they were like, $3 to $5 each. They were nothing. And he could have gotten like all these crazy rainforest species.
Yeah, that sounds like it might be worth a trip just going up there just to check that place out.
I had such a ball there. Hey, that was such a nice spot, because like the campsite was like a generic kind of campsite, but it was a good campsite, apart from the cows that kept us up all night. But yeah, and then like just being able to go and walk through the rainforest and stuff during the day, and it was a pretty cool rangers kind of station cafe thing there as well, with some awesome views. So it was, yeah, it had everything. I was showing Danny some of the videos from it, and even she was like pretty keen to go and stay there. So if she's keen to go there, then anybody should be keen to go there.
Yeah,
because she's not much of a camper.
Beautiful, really beautiful, good part of the earth. But yeah, no, that's yeah, I was spewing I couldn't make that, but next time,
shit happens, mate. We'll get you out on it.
I know, but yeah, that's a good little score in that Reptiles book as well. That first one, because that's the same series that Scott's books are in.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of, he's got a new one coming out too. So I
think I pre-ordered it already.
Yeah, so did I. 2 copies, I think.
Of course. I don't even remember what it was. I feel bad now. I saw it come up and I was just like, I'm just going to pre-order it. You don't know either, do you? You just
I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, I just ordered it. I was like, yep, order.
How horrible are we?
I know. Give me 2 seconds, I'll tell you, because I can just go. It was.
Yeah, we should be able to get this up pretty quick.
Oh, yeah, Snakes of Australia. I was almost going to say Reptiles of Australia. This one you've got. It's Naturalist Guide to Snakes of Australia, 2nd edition. So,
yeah, I think I picked up, just because I didn't already have his frog book from that series either, him and Ty's frog book. But yeah, I decided to get that on the same round.
Yeah, and he usually sends you like a little magnet, and I know he does when you order them first off. I'm not sure about, but yeah, so that's another cool little collector's item with a little number in it and stuff like that. So. Keen. I love books. I haven't had much time to read lately, though. That's my problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, to be honest.
Yeah.
I feel like every waking moment I'm moving something into the garage and then hoping it doesn't get moldy and flooded. Our garage is flooded today with all this rain.
Yeah. Down the road starting to flood again here, so.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, we had one of the elevators full.
Yeah, right. Is that your one?
Not my one. There's one lucky. A bit lower down in the car park, but it's near all my stuff.
That's right, because yours is down the opposite end, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. But weather, hey? Yeah, it's kind of disappointing, really, because I would have loved to have a bit more good weather before it got too cold, just to be able to go out for a few walks and stuff, just to see any of the last reptiles moving about, even if it's just like local walks. So I've been seeing heaps of laces lately, which has been kind of odd. But yeah, hopefully we get a few more sunny weekends before it goes away. Daylight savings is up soon as well. That's beginning of April somewhere.
This weekend, I think. It was next weekend. Next weekend? It's the 1st of April on...
A few days now,
isn't it? A few days, yeah.
Might be this
the 4th.
Weekend.
Monday's the 4th, so it might be this weekend, yeah.
Oh.
Which is a nightmare with kids.
Yeah, but they don't understand it.
No, you get them in this little routine and then it just changes again. But, yeah, I think it's this weekend. So, yeah, I'd love to get a couple of small herps in before that. So,
well, man, I mean, even if you're just keen for a bushwalk or something on the weekend, even if it's just a daytime walk or something like that, if you got the time.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Just something. So, anything really.
We'll have to even go and see if we can get a little camp trip or something up to like Mile Lakes or something, not too far. Or
yeah.
Maybe like Wadigans or...
Actually, that wouldn't be a bad one, the Wadigans.
Wadigans is always good. I haven't been up there for a while.
Even if it's raining, you just tick off a bunch of frogs.
Yeah.
So...
That'd be good for like a one-nighter from us as well. Like it doesn't have to be a massive one.
No. Well, it's only 20 minutes from my joint, so...
So it's probably only about an hour from me.
Yeah, but not even. Depends which way you go, because there's a couple of ways you can go from where you are. So
you can get to it via Yarramalong and stuff, can't you? I think you can go the back way around that way.
From your joint, you could take off at the Calga exit, the one just before you come down over Hawkes River Bridge. No, Mini Bridge, sorry.
Yeah.
Take that exit and just follow that, and then you come in at the top end and then drive down in through there. up near past Colnura. Kind of up that way. But yeah, no, that's probably not a bad one we could do. Even if it's training, you could do that. Just get a bunch of frogs and this and that. So might have to try and tee that up soon, I reckon.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to, mate. Especially now I've got my new car.
Yeah.
So
got the whip, mate. Give it a burn. You'll be good. Yeah, it'll go through those because that's just all fire trails through there. So
that'll be fine.
Most of them. But
she's all-wheel drive. She'll be right.
Yeah.
I'm getting it all kitted out, mate. I've got the roof awning in the lounge room there that I've been putting together. Got the drop-down tent from the roof awning.
Got it all.
Got the queen-size bed that inflates by itself, so my wife's happy when she comes. I wouldn't bother with it. I just roll the swag out or a sleeping bag or something. But
yeah,
just in case she's with me. And
yeah.
Got a good esky. Apparently, it keeps ice frozen for 3 days. So it's funny going on these couple of trips because it's kind of like just seeing what everyone's bringing with them.
Yeah.
Like, this is all the sort of gear that I can just leave in my garage and when I want to go, I can go.
Yeah, I was going to take my fridge when we went. You'd just be like ice cold beers.
Well, you still had ice cold beers, mate.
Yeah, from the esky. But
ice cold beers and eggs and tomato sauce on toast.
That's all you need.
That and caffeine. That was pretty much us.
Yeah, I usually just when I go camping, it's usually just beer, bacon, eggs, and coffee.
Yeah,
that's pretty much what I live off.
We didn't even do coffee. We were just Todd wasn't a coffee guy.
Nah, I'm a massive coffee guy.
No, he was like 7 o'clock in the morning and cracking a mother.
Yeah, can't do them.
I rolled with it. I was just like, whatever. This is what I'm doing. I'm a coffee guy usually, but
No, my heart races too much drinking those.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I've been electrocuted a few times, so I don't need mothers.
No, that was good fun, man. We'll have to do that as well. That was a good fun trip. Yeah. What else is happening with the animals, man?
I've hatched out like 7 boids now, so gone mental. Just like, it's funny because I'm going to have to go through that enclosure because I'm wondering whether there might even be a couple of hatchies floating around in there. So I've just been throwing small crickets in anyway, just in case. So that way, if there is some in there, they're still getting food, and obviously there's worms and stuff in there as well. But obviously, I got the first clutches from both females, dug them up. Pretty much, I'm 100% sure I found all of them. There wasn't many. Then the next lot, I started like the same spot. I'm like digging. I'm like, oh yeah, cool. Then there was one female's a little bit smaller than the other, so I'm assuming some of the eggs were like bigger than the other one. So I thought, oh, maybe they're both just laid in the same spot because they're pretty much laid at the same time. But then I started digging a little bit further over and found even more eggs. I'm like, oh, hang on, maybe they were just smaller eggs from the same female. And then I'm like, then I couldn't remember. I didn't write it down. I couldn't remember if they laid on the same day or if they were a couple of days apart. I honestly couldn't remember. I thought they were. But then all of a sudden, all these eggs just hatched on the same time. I assumed they were from the 2 females because the first 2 clutches were, and they were small clutches. So I thought, oh, they're probably just 2 small clutches. But now I'm like, hang on. Did like the other, I think I had 6 eggs, maybe a couple more. I'm like, oh, hang on. Did they come from one female and then 2 come from another? Some of them weren't fertile. And then I'm like, maybe there's still some floating around in the enclosure. So who knows? But
fair few babies.
Cool hatch somehow. Yeah, I wasn't expecting it. But I'm just looking at that tub and I'm like, oh, I don't think it is one. I thought I might have had another one hatch out, but I don't think it is. No, it's not. But so that's pretty cool.
Obviously not going to keep them all though, are you?
No, I don't think I'll keep any of them, to be honest. I'll probably move them all. I moved a couple on the other day, but they're my earlier ones that hatched out.
Yeah, we could.
But yeah, I'm not going to keep. I don't really have the room to keep. Obviously, I'll keep them if I can't move them on. I'll keep them, but yeah, I'm not going to keep them for myself though. So
yeah,
but it's cool to see them hatch. My son loves them. Comes out, wants to feed him crickets. loves them to the point it's almost annoying because you want to make sure they eat, and he's just pouring baby, like tiny crickets everywhere. Small crickets, like you open the door and it's like I've almost dropped a tub of small crickets.
Bloody hell.
But they're just ones that have jumped out because, he wants to try and drop them in with tongs, just won't pour them in. But
yeah.
But yeah, what about you? You've had much hatch out, or?
Not recently, but I have a plague of hopping mice at the moment. They have gone berserk, like absolutely berserk, to the point where I'm going to have to stop them going berserk, I think. So, because honestly, I went from, I think 6, then I lost 1 or 2 when we kind of originally got them, and now I've got to be close to 15 or something at least.
Yeah, right.
And it's I put a carrot in, and then half an hour later, it's gone. There is no carrot left whatsoever. They just run out and just gnaw the hell out of it. So if anybody wants any hopping mice and have their license, hit me up. But reptile-wise, I'm waiting on a Gillen's egg that's hopefully going to hatch from a different bloodline. So I'm still kind of waiting on that. Yeah. But no, I've just got a few babies that I'm raising up. I've got a few more. Actually, no, I had a couple more Ciliaris aberrans hatch out this week.
Yep.
Or last week. I can't even remember. I've had a few of them hatch out. But I think because I disturbed, how I sent you that photo where I got 3 or 4 clutches out of the soil?
Yeah.
I think because I disturbed them, maybe they're a bit weaker or something like that. Or maybe they're weaker because they were in the enclosure for a longer period of time. So I had a couple of them drop off.
Yeah,
where they kind of hatched. They were good for a couple of weeks, and they dropped off. And then I've had another clutch hatch, which they're looking a bit more promising, to be honest. So hopefully they're okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll probably end up moving those guys on as well once they're solid. But no, apart from that, I'm just trying to make sure that one little Boyd's forest dragon that I've got is eating okay. He never eats in front of me, but little turds appear occasionally. So
yeah.
My little Gillen's monitors are now in one of these enclosures that you can't see off the side here. So that's cool having them in an actual enclosure and not in a tub.
Yeah.
And my little depressor has turned into a weapon, the one remaining one.
Good. Yeah.
That one is so solid. I could chuck 20 crickets in there and it'll just smash all of them within 5 minutes. It's just,
right.
It's mental, hey. It's honestly scratching at the glass every time it sees me. It's just it's just ravenous.
It's almost like a monitor.
It is like a little Gillen's monitor, but
that's awesome.
Spiky skink. So
they're pretty cool.
They are very cool. I'm very lucky that I've at least got the one. I'm stoked with that. So, but yeah, I think, I don't know. The more and more I look at this wall behind me, all the exoterras and stuff that are in that particular area, the more and more I don't want everything that's there.
Yeah,
and I just want to do a nice display for another set of Gillen's and the depressor or something and kind of call it. You know? So I don't know. I'm still toying around with those ideas.
Exoterra walls. Did you see Gondwana Geckos' latest post?
No. Instagram?
So Instagram, I saw his latest he posted it 2 hours ago. So he's just finished his Exoterra wall.
Oh, really?
All backgrounds and But looks awesome. He's got a couple of rainforest ones, a couple of desert ones, and this and that. So,
sick!
Looks awesome.
That looks really good.
Yeah.
Are they Australians? Do I follow them?
Yeah, he's Australian. Yeah.
I am following him. Yeah, I don't do Instagram. That's why I sound like a complete illiterate on this thing.
So I don't really do Facebook much. Facebook grinds my gears. I just like looking at pictures.
I don't do both anymore. I'm finding myself starting off at all. I've
kind of been doing the same. I've been on it a little bit, but I've just more so been watching people's stories.
Yeah.
But other than that, I haven't really been on it too much. Haven't posted much. And
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that is probably one of the best Exoterra walls I've ever seen.
Yeah, definitely. Especially in Australia and Australia.
Yeah.
Looks like he's got a bunch of banks here maybe, or wattle or something in one of them.
I'd be interested to know if they're cuttings or if they are plants, and if they are plants, how established they actually are.
I think he's only just finished them.
Yeah.
Like they're just finished. So, because I remember I've been messaging him previously about it. But yeah, it looks awesome.
The one thing that I'm looking at it, the kind of like, and it could be just because of the way that they're like maybe sat inside this rack, but it looks like they're super shallow. Like, you know how the Exoterras are quite a bit deeper?
Yeah.
In the bases of a lot of these. Like, it almost looks like he's done like a bit of a, I could be wrong, but like a little bit of a skirt around the bottom of the enclosures.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that looks super shallow. When I'm looking at where those Banksias or whatever, the wattles or whatever,
in the middle there, yeah.
Yeah, would be placed. You'd think that, like, I look at that and go, I can only see a couple of centimetres worth of dirt, but chances are that probably is deeper behind.
He may have covered the dirt up with something, maybe. I don't know. It looks uniform pretty well across. But it looks like he's lined up like, obviously they're all different size Exoterras, but it works perfectly for the dimensions. Yeah. Like, he's got, obviously the top and bottom row are the same, like, lengths.
Yeah, widths.
And widths. But he's got the 4 in the middle, but it works perfectly.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like how I've done this one. I've kind of got like 30 wides, 45 wides, and 60 wides.
Yeah.
But they're like different heights.
Yeah.
You know, per shell.
Actually, no, he's got 4 up the top. But yeah, it looks awesome. When I saw the post, I was like, oh, he's finished it. That looks unreal.
Yeah, looks sick. That looks really sick. Yeah.
Makes me like Exoterras.
I'm just talking about tearing down my Exoterra wall, and then you tell me about this, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about changing all my stuff too. Like, and then I'll go like, oh, it looks pretty good. But the only, I just wish they were a bit deeper. That's my only thing.
Yeah. That's
45.
Yeah. I just want to do bigger enclosures, and I don't want to go and buy a 90 by 90 Exoterra when it costs so much, when I could be building something for a lot cheaper.
Yeah. Looks awesome.
Okay. I've enjoyed mucking around with these enclosures. I can't wait to get my Kimberley rock monitor enclosure done, because then this whole like monitor corner will be done.
Yeah.
With all those backgrounds and stuff. I need to pull my finger out and just start it, because the Kimbo is always going to take the longest, because it's all the rock work.
Yeah.
That I've got to do. And yeah. Anyway, I'm looking forward to when that'll be done, because these things have all got fans, Mist Kings, UV lights, infrared heating, dimmer lights, and LED lights. So there's kind of like I've got them on sunrise, sunset features, as well as like normal day lengths and stuff like that. So
I've actually got to pick up my infrared, yeah, heat emitter. I got one of the Arcadia ones.
Oh, sick!
Can you give it a whirl?
Who are you going to use that on?
Roughies. Once the enclosure's all sorted.
Yeah, sick.
So that's something in the works. It's been in the works for a while, but obviously things going on recently with everyone, this and that. It'll come to fruition soon.
No doubt.
You'll probably see it behind me, I reckon. But then that's going to change as well. So.
Yeah, you were saying that you're going to change it up.
Yeah, just to give me, basically use my space better, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because, it's like you can see the ceiling above me there. It's pretty low. I think it's just under 2.1. So I'll be using like pretty much almost every mil.
Yeah.
So it sits like 50 mil above the height of the door. So basically, if I do like a bank, I'm restricted to the height of the door, but it's only 50 mil. So, if I build the bank and then put some little caster on the bottom or something, it'll be good.
Yeah.
So keen to just make things finished, if that makes sense as well.
Oh, bloody oath.
Yeah.
I thought I was finished, and then this unborn child that we're affectionately calling Gumnut at the moment put the proverbial spanner in the works.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's a good spanner in the works.
Oh, it's a great spanner. I just wish Danny, I wish it happened before I moved all my shit here.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
Because then at least I could have sold it out of my in-laws.
Yeah.
Oh, well. It's given me a new shot at like redoing the rooms that I only just completed. So
yeah,
It'll be right. But yeah, no, I'm yeah, I know what you mean. I'm keen to just have it done so I can just enjoy it. But
Yeah,
as Matt Somerville says, it's never done.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'll finish it and I'll finish a bunch of enclosures. It'll look nice. It'll look like, what else can I do? What else can I do? And seeing stuff like, obviously, like that post on Gondwana Geckos and stuff like that. Like, you look at stuff like that and you're like, oh, I could do that. And then you might go to someone's house and they're doing something slightly different, like the way Tyson uses his Miss Kings. He's got this drain set up and this, and I'm like, oh, that's an awesome idea. Like, there's always these extra things to try and make things easier and better that you're always thinking of in your head, and stuff that Scott does with his room and this and that, like letting the moon in and stuff like that. Like, I've got a window in this room, but it's always the blind's always shut because the neighbors can see straight in the room. So I'm like, I don't want all the lights on and then the neighbors can see in and see what's in here. Like, not that there's, the heaps. I just don't want people seeing all. And obviously the sun will come through it as well. So I don't want the sun beaming through and shining on enclosures and stuff. But yeah, so I like the idea of having a skylight on the roof just to let that natural light in, let the moon light in, and all that kind of thing as well. So that's one thing I'm looking at doing in the future as well. So
I reckon that's a great idea if you can do it.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be all about that too if I was in the right position to do it. But I'm in a similar position where I've got a nice window here. I've got double sliding doors, but that blind stays shut all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think my neighbors would do anything, but at the same time, like, they'll probably think I'm growing weed or something, all these lights on and stuff like that. Like,
that's what I'm worried about.
This guy's growing weed out of his bloody thing. The cops come around. Nah, sorry, it's not.
But, it's a bunch of lizards.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of lizards, but, it'd be pretty funny.
Yeah. Oh, well, we got a little bit of a topic that we wanted to kind of like chat about a little bit tonight, don't we?
Yeah.
So we kind of wanted to do a bit of an episode where essentially we talk about a bit of feeders or food items as such. So we wanted to kind of get into a little bit of a chat about all things feeding reptiles.
Yeah. You've got a bit more experience with the breeding side of feeders than me. I'm just a
little bit
more.
What?
Probably, I haven't really bred any feeders, so I'm going to start a colony of woodies though. So
you've never given anything a crack?
No, I've always bought all my feeders. My wife hates rats and mice. And she hates woodies and cockroaches.
Yeah,
so
mine does
crickets.
too.
Crickets seem like a bit of a pain to feed. You kind of need like to breed. Sorry,
you
kind of need like a bit of a setup. So you need the space. But yeah, so the two things that are relatively easy to breed, and good feeders as well. My wife hates both of them.
Yeah, well,
she'd let me get away with roaches because they don't take up much space. But if it came to feeding snakes, no chance in hell.
To be honest, I'd much rather breed roaches any day than breed rodents.
Yeah,
because I've only bred rodents a few times for reptiles.
Yeah,
and I bred rodents prior to reptiles for pets, not for food. So now breeding rodents again for the purpose of reptiles, like, I found it really hard to actually, euthanize the animals and stuff like that, where I'd have to take them to people to euthanize them for me, because I had that kind of like mentality prior. They were actually, well, look, they are intelligent animals as much as people want to give them grief. They are pretty smart little critters. But it's also just so time consuming, like the amount of work that does go into them, which no doubt we'll elaborate on in a little bit. But, I personally, like, once you value your time on a lot of these things, you got to decide whether it's for you, whether you want to try to breed any of these animals or whether you want to just try to buy them in, like what you're doing yourself. And what I've done quite a lot in the past, like, I've never bothered with crickets for that reason. I always just thought, no, if I'm feeding crickets, then I'll just buy them in, because breeding them I found a bit tedious. But, roaches are easy. They'll bloody survive in anything. Like, I fed my roach colonies last night and I kind of just left the tubs on the ground just so I could actually see, like, come in an hour later and see the kind of quantity of animals in there, and I was quite surprised. So, yeah, might be the stage.
you buy one of those Pisces tubs from the pet shop, and how many times have you just go, still roaches in there, still roaches in there, still roaches in there? Like, you're not even trying to breed them. But
little baby ones just keep popping out.
Yeah,
a little bit of cardboard in there.
Yeah. So, but it's they're definitely one thing I'm going to start doing, and I might even try and start to look at doing some black soldier fly larvae as well.
Yeah, they can be a little bit of a difficult one. I've tried it a couple of times actually.
I've done it a few times in my compost bin.
Compost bin's one thing. Doing it in a controlled environment is completely different.
Exactly.
But I think if you can, definitely set up a compost bin for it. Like even what's his name? Old mate Costa with the big beard. You know, the gardener guy.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, he's got an awesome video on YouTube. I think it's part of Gardening Australia or whatever it is. But yeah, he's got an awesome video out there on how to make a in particular black soldier fly compost bin where you can actually harvest your own black soldier fly larvae from, which I highly recommend people go and have a look at to get some ideas. But yeah, anyway, let's kind of kick it off. So what are we talking? So we're talking roaches, crickets, black soldier fly larvae, mealworms, mice, rats, quails, rabbits.
All things.
Yeah, guinea pigs. If you're Chris Smith, then maybe some baby goats or pigs or something like that. If you're Tyson, 300 yabbies at a time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's another thing, yeah.
Yeah, so yabbies is definitely one of those things that I haven't bred, but I've had to keep for food, so that's another thing. But yeah, basically we're just going to go through a bit of a rough chat about a lot of these animals. So what about mealworms with you? Have you ever fed off mealworms to any animals?
I have. I've just bought obviously from the pet shop, just as like a bit of a mix-up kind of thing, just to mix things up a little bit.
Yeah.
I do try and do that. Obviously, I feed predominantly crickets, but I've got the worm farm out the front, so I'm always feeding worms. The boids, it's like crack for the boids.
Yeah,
those worms. But if I see random things like that at the pet shop, I might buy a tub here and there. But and just feed off mealworms and stuff like that. I wasn't a fan of feeding the geckos mealworms, some of the larger ones, but yeah, if they have random things like that, I'll definitely feed off things just to mix it up a little bit, and
Yeah. I'm in the same boat as you, whereas with like stuff like geckos, I pretty much stuck to crickets, wood roaches. I don't mind doing the occasional black soldier fly if it's a big gecko, just because they're a little bit, in my opinion, softer compared to a mealworm, so they might be a little bit more digestible. But you do have to be kind of careful with black soldier fly larvae or mealworms, whereas if you're kind of like overpacking the animals with them, they end up just spewing them all back up. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Like I'd feed the odd, like I know the Stross did like a few of the smaller mealworms, but I just do like, tong feed one, tong feed one, because they'll happily take anything off tongs. But I did that as well just to mix things up, but I never just, tip a bunch of mealworms in.
Yeah.
I'd always, just tong feed one or two just to each one, and that was kind of it. And then just chuck in a couple of crickets here and there as well. But it's pretty much predominantly just crickets.
Yep.
Just purely because I probably would have done roaches as well, but obviously,
So here's the thing, right? Is like crickets are probably one of the most non-nutritious foods, depending on what you're feeding them.
Yes, that's right.
But they're one of the most convenient foods to feed.
Oh, definitely. And I'd say with woodies, you can't just chuck a handful of woodies in your enclosure, because
they're gone.
You never see them again. They're gone. So you pretty much got a tong feed. And some of the like leaf tails will happily feed off tongs. Chameleon geckos, they would never. So pretty much anything that like that, you'd basically, one, you wouldn't know if they were eating. Two, they probably wouldn't get a chance at it because they just go straight into your leaf litter, into your background or whatever. But I think that's the other benefit of also the bioactive, having like, every time I move something, if I find those like roly-polies in the yard, I'll just take a handful of them and try and breed them. I can't. I suck at it. But, but I'll chuck them in enclosures and that as well. But they get picked off as well. So that's like an extra source of food as well. But yeah, that's one reason why I wasn't so big on the woodies was, with some of those geckos, they wouldn't catch them, or you'd chuck it and they'd get out of your enclosures as well. And they'd, but yeah, obviously with the crickets as well, I use a multivitamin as well on the crickets as well as
I do too.
calcium powder.
Yeah.
So that way it's just, that little bit extra. I wouldn't do it every feed. But yeah, probably more so than I would, more often than I would calcium powder. Like I do calcium every so often. But I just found that multivitamin, for what the crickets were lacking, that multivitamin kind of, what I could tell, made up that little bit of extra, shortcomings of the crickets. So I never had any issues with feeding just crickets.
Did you have a favourite kind of multivitamin that you use?
Yeah, the Herpetoculture one.
Oh, yeah.
Herpetoculture?
Yep.
Repcal. It's in the white container with the blue label. Herpetoculture.
I know the one you're talking about. It's a bit of an old school one.
Old school one.
Like old school packaging.
Herptovite. It was a Herptovite, maybe.
Well, we're probably butchering the hell out of it.
Yeah. But they do it was Repcal was the calcium, I think it was. But it was I think it was Herptovite. I used to get it from what was it called? The Herp Shop.
Oh, the Herp Shop, yeah.
I used to order from the Herp Shop. But I haven't been able to find it anywhere recently.
I really enjoyed...
Herptovite. There you go. From Repcal. Repcal was the company that made it. It was called Herptovite.
I really enjoyed the Repashy stuff when that was in Australia for that short period of time. Yeah. I found that they were one of the best powders to get stuck to wood roaches.
It was very fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuck really well. Yeah, I tried a few of their products. Some I liked, some I was like I wasn't super keen on. But the powders were definitely, the calcium powder and the multivitamin was good. I only tried the multivitamin once though. Or the calcium, sorry, and I didn't try any multivitamin.
Yeah. I'm now just using the Exoterra stuff. But I also just have like a basic, I think it's even just a basic Reptile 1 calcium powder without vitamin D3.
Yeah.
Just because you can actually overdo D3 a lot, I find.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to be a bit conscious about that, especially if you're already providing animals UVB.
Exactly. Which you are a majority of your stuff. So
pretty much everything is nowadays.
Yeah.
I don't think any of my animals don't have UV anymore.
Yeah.
So, crickets are really good if you gut load them. So I tend to not only gut load them with your standard kind of like carrots, but you can always change it up and do some like leafy greens as well.
Yeah.
I also, because I got the hopping mice, I tend to do a lot of the rodent cubes for my insects as well, just to kind of give them some dry food.
That's something I've got to try.
Oh, like even just next time you're here, man, I'll just send you home with a few kilo of it and you can just plot it out, because it's good because you can just kind of like crumble it up a little bit and just put like one cube in and they'll just devour the heck out of it.
Yeah.
And it'll last them a fair while, especially if you're starting to get like tubs of crickets like storage tubs of crickets rather than kind of like your shop tubs of crickets.
Yeah.
So that's another option to kind of throw into the mix as well. But yeah, what else do I feed? I also feed like good cat kibble to my insects as well, just to kind of provide a bit of protein and stuff to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you feed your bugs?
Yeah, I used to order from Live Foods. It was like I think they called it a cricket chow or something like that. It pretty much looked like crushed up cornflakes kind of thing. But what it actually was, I'm not too sure. But see, I ran out of that. I'll feed like your veggies and this and that. I'll have to try some of those pellets you were talking about. But I also just sprinkle in like the crumbs of the Wheat Bix and like just all the crumbs from cereal as well, like as a bit of like filler almost. They smash it. But I've never had, and obviously with a multivitamin on top of that. So, everything seems to be pretty good. But I remember listening to a podcast a while ago, years ago now. It might have actually been on NPR. Or it might have been on the old Gecko Nation radio podcast. but someone was talking about what they fed their crickets, and they were talking about it was like a crushed up, like crunchy nut cornflake and this and that. Like it was basically all like crunched up cereal, and I think it might have even had some cat litter or something, not cat litter, like kibble in it as well. And that was basically their staple for their cricket. So I kind of just followed that minus the kitty litter, but a couple of other bits and pieces and veggies. So that was pretty much it.
Yeah, it seems to be a pretty standard diet that most people kind of do, is some sort of dry food, some sort of wet food, essentially. And if you can alternate it a little bit, then it's going to be better for the animals long term, and give the like the healthier you make the feeder, then the healthier your animal gets because of it.
That's right. Theory. Well, that's why I always every couple of feeds supplemented with a multivitamin, just purely because I just wanted to make sure that they were getting the best that I could give them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no harm in it whatsoever.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes across the boards with, your crickets, your roaches. Obviously, black soldier fly larvae tend to do good on compost, as we've kind of already mentioned, as well as like earthworms. Mealworms, from memory, I can't even remember what you feed mealworms. I want to say it's like meal. Isn't that the whole point of the mealworms?
I think so, yeah. And obviously silkworms are your
mulberry leaves.
The mulberry leaves. But I've got a mulberry tree out the back, so.
Oh, mate, you should get right into those then.
Yeah.
That'd be fun for the kids too, to hatch out those little worms and go and pick up a leaf and feed them to your worms, and then you can feed them to your lizards.
I thought about doing that, actually. I might actually look into that. But, they smashed the mulberries on the tree, but the kids.
Yeah.
But, I might actually look into doing that.
Well, it's a good seasonal treat for your reptiles, right? So,
exactly.
They're not an all-year thing. You can kind of have some moths all cocooned for half or most of the year, and then hatch out some silkworms every year. That's a good kind of seasonal treat. That I haven't had a reptile refuse silkworms.
Oh, really?
No, like everything just smashes them, hey?
I've had a couple of, like, when I've fed roaches here and there, I've had a few stuff refuse roaches, but just flat out weren't interested in them. Not so much furious. They're basically garbage guts, but I had a few things that didn't show any interest in them. But I'll have to try those silkworms. I might actually look into doing that.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
You're still sounding a bit robot-y to me, mate.
Am I? Oh, internet, mate. It says my internet's all right. I don't know.
Oh, well, keep going. See what happens. So, obviously these things have a bit of a wide variety of, like, nutritional values and stuff to them, and you get a bit of a different calcium to phosphorus ratio between them. But, like anything, which we're kind of suggesting here, is if you can do variety, like, it's always good to have some sort of staple, like, we both use crickets or roaches. But, if you can kind of add some other critters in there occasionally, I know a few people are pretty keen on wild catching insects as well, to offer a bit of variety. So Josh Thompson, of course, comes to mind with little Mango the netted dragon eating everything under the sun.
Praying mantis, spiders,
all sorts, katydids.
Yeah.
Pretty much whatever Josh can find, he's essentially giving that little lizard. So that's probably one of the most, diverse diets that I've seen.
It's pretty interesting watching it eat too, isn't it? Watching it take down some blood prey items.
Yeah, it's insane just being able to watch it, like that praying mantis one. That was huge.
Yeah, like obviously you think, like, you read your books and it's like the width of the eye, it's got to be like this big and this and that. I mean, a gecko or something in the wild is like, oh, hang on, you're a bit wider than my eye span. I'm not going to eat you. But
yeah, exactly.
And then that video is proof in the pudding. I mean, it obviously for if it's your first time keeping things, you're not going to feed things massive just in case something happens. So they're kind of in place for a reason, those rules, but they're not really a hard and fast rule at the end of the day.
No, like, it's a good thing for people to kind of, start to understand what their animals can and can't handle and stuff.
Exactly.
But, watching that netted dragon eat a praying mantis that was the same length as you.
Yeah, exactly.
It was pretty interesting. How do you go, like, when you do feed your mealworms, like, are you one of those people that squashes the head of the mealworm before you feed it?
No, I just feed it.
I've never done it either.
Neither. I don't, like, they're eating spiders, and I don't see the whole thing with crushing the head of the mealworm. Like, have you ever seen any like pictures of? I don't think I've ever seen a picture of a mealworm eating its way out of something.
I've never had it. Yeah, I've never seen a mealworm eating its way out of something. The only thing I've ever seen is occasionally like small dragons. So let's just say like juvenile bearded dragon, something in that kind of 6 month range or thereabouts. I have seen them cop a decent bite from one of like the superworms or something like that, where they've just kind of swung around while they're eating it and bitten them under the cheek or something like that. But, even when I say a decent bite, like it's not really look like it's pierced skin or anything like that. It's kind of brushed it off, but you could tell that it agitated the dragon for a quick second, but then the dragon finished its meal. So, yeah, I've never been one to squash their heads. I don't know. I've just never bothered with it.
At the same time, I never overfed mealworms too. So, I'd only feed a couple here and there. So it's not like they were gorging themselves on mealworms where they couldn't eat any more.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of look at it as like one of those treats. So, even the dragons that I've got here, I'll give them that like once a week, just to have a variety day sort of thing. Otherwise, they're getting whatever else they're getting. But yeah, no, I've never been one of those ones. What about setting up your animals? I know we've kind of talked a little bit about it in the past, but like, how do you make your tubs for your crickets in particular?
So my tubs, I just basically go to Bunnings, buy like a big container, cut a vent in the side, hot glue in like aluminium fly screen mesh, and then lid on the top and just egg crates for my crickets.
So you've only got the one vent in the tank?
It's huge. I've got one. It's like it takes up pretty much the whole side of the
Okay, so it's like
basically it's like 200 by 200.
Yeah, okay.
So it's pretty much almost it's a huge vent. It's not like a little small one. So, but the one I had before that, it was basically the whole lid was a vent, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, see, I do the whole lid or like a good portion of the lid, because when I go to empty out my tubs or feed out from my tubs, I essentially like smack all the egg crate out.
Yeah.
So all the crickets are in the bottom of it. And I always thought that if the mesh was on the side, then they could climb up the mesh. And
they definitely do. That's what I regret doing with this one. I don't know why. I think the reason why I did is because the few times I tried to make new tubs, I kept splitting the lids when I was trying to cut them.
Yeah, fair enough.
And then, numerous times. And I'm like, well, now I got to go and buy another container. So I'd go buy another container and do it again. I'm like, are you kidding me?
What are you cutting out your lids with?
I've tried everything. I've tried Stanley knives. I've tried hot knives. I've tried knives, everything.
Dremel?
Don't have a Dremel though.
Good investment, man. They're cheap these days too. You can get like, I think one of those like little Ozito ones for like under $50. Dremel, you'll be done in 2 seconds.
Yeah, I might give that a whirl.
Yeah, and you'll use it for other stuff too.
Yeah.
Like you're bound to. I've used multi-tools. Multi-tools are good on those, as long as you've got the right blade on them.
The small metal one, probably.
Yeah, don't use something that's too aggressive.
No.
They're pretty good. I've done it even just with if you've got 45 minutes up your sleeve. I've done it with a soldering iron in the past.
Yeah, I've tried that. So this is taking too fucking long.
Yeah.
You could probably use an angle grinder too, be a bit smelly and melty, but
almost anything you're going to cut it with is going to be a bit smelly and melty, really.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, that they seem to do the trick. I found the Dremel to be the easiest because it was like, I think it was just because it was the thinnest cut, so you kind of didn't have to burn it so much.
Yeah.
And it was a fast cut too, so you could knock the top out of one of those lids in under 2 minutes, quite easily cutting it up. I did the same thing, but yeah, just a big mesh lid. The only thing that I didn't do on these ones, and I want to redo them, is I just want to hot glue the actual mesh into place, because I just ended up using gaffer tape just to tape it down. And
okay.
It's all coming off now.
Yeah.
Because, you get the cricket frass and dust and stuff like that knocked around, or the roach dust or whatever. But again, because the vents are on the top of the tank or on top of the containers, they they don't really get out of them. So
yeah, that's all right. Yeah, so that's the one regret I have with this one is having the vent on the side. But yes, they do climb up the side. But I just kind of sit the bash all the egg crate out and just sit the lid over the side.
yeah, okay,
So they can't really jump out.
yeah.
But yeah, it's still annoying.
You live and you learn. It's all trial and error, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I can definitely see the benefits to being able to have a few vents on the side, even if you were to do like 50 mil holes or something down low, just so there's a bit of cross ventilation or something. Because that's one thing that does kill a lot of insects real quick is generally a lot of humidity, in particular for crickets and cockroaches. That tends to knock them off the perch pretty easily. I know with cockroaches, as soon as you get your woodies and stuff all too humid or anything, like if you put in too much wet food, as in like crickets or not crickets, carrots or soft veggies or anything like that, then that'll turn them off real quick. So you only ever want to make sure you're putting in enough wet food that they can consume in a couple of hours, essentially, just to make sure that they're hydrated.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, the way that I kind of set it up, I essentially have all my cardboard in with my crickets or my roaches. And because I've only got those holes on the top, I can knock all those cardboard pieces out. And then I have like a couple of, like your paper towel tubes. I've just got a couple of those paper towel tubes that I kind of leave in the bottom of the tub. And as I knock everything else out, everything kind of freaks out and runs into those paper towel tubes. So then I've got all the insects in like a little tube, and then I kind of bash that into a jar or, a container or whatever that I can then put my calcium powder or multivitamin powders or whatever in. So it's kind of just an easy way to get them out of the tub. I don't know. Do you do something similar?
No, I just bash the egg crate into a tub.
Straight out.
Just straight out. But I did. Did you post a video or something of doing that, or you might have said it before? But I'm actually going to try that. So I'm actually going to get rid of this container and redo it. Put a vent on the lid, and I'm actually going to try that tube.
It's easy because you just leave it in there. Like, it doesn't have to be anything special. We've always got them kicking around, right? Like, I mean,
exactly.
You could use a toilet paper one if you really wanted to, but I think it's just because I use those. Speaking of crickets, I've got a few rogue ones running around me right now.
A bunch of them.
I just use like a pasta sauce jar or something to put my calcium powder in, and it's just a nice little convenient jar that I can walk around with, dishing out crickets or roaches or whatever. So
and see, mine's got a big open. I mean, it's a deep container. It's an old one out of the kitchen, but I like the idea of having the smaller hole on the top. That way, it's not like less chance of the crickets jumping out because it's a smaller opening.
I mean, and if you're doing a lot of roaches too, you could actually put like a little bit of Fluon around that inside edge. So I mean, that's something that we didn't touch on there, but essentially for crickets, you don't really need to put any kind of like insect barriers around your tubs as such. But with cockroaches, because they can climb smooth surfaces with ease, it's not a bad idea to have, a kind of 50, 60 mil insect barrier around the top of your tub. So most people use Fluon, which kind of gets painted on essentially. But other than that, like I actually use petroleum jelly myself. I just found that that's just super easy to reapply.
And probably easier to find as well. Fluon got a bit hard to find at one point there as well.
Seems pretty good these days. Like I know you can jump straight onto eBay and there's always like tons of that available up there. My biggest problem with Fluon, and look, don't get me wrong, both have their downsides. My biggest problem with Fluon is the amount of time that it took to actually put it on the containers.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of like wait for it to dry, maybe do another layer of it, and rotate the tub as you go. But if you put a scratch through that Fluon, then the roaches can climb straight out there and it's not hard to scratch. Yeah. At least with petroleum jelly, you can kind of just rub a whole layer through it, under a minute, you're done, you're ready to go. But then if you have a really hot day in summer and the tub gets hot, then sometimes the jelly will run and then you've got the same sort of problem.
Yeah.
So, you got to just keep an eye on it and you got to be a bit smart about it. But I have a feeling that not being in a garage anymore, I won't have that issue with petroleum jelly.
Yeah. I've actually, speaking of feeding and stuff, I've actually ordered some new stuff I'm going to try. Try the cricket food out as well. So you can give that a whirl. See how that works.
What did you get?
It's like basically where I've been getting my crickets from. They supply, like they've got like pretty much got everything for feeding crickets and this and that. So it's just like a cricket food. I can't remember off the top of my head what it is, but that should hopefully be rock up pretty soon. So
that's exciting.
Yeah.
Do you want to give where you get your crickets from a shout out, or do you want to keep it secret for now so you still got stock?
Well, they're still low on stock, so I've been getting like small packs from what I can actually get in. It's just crickets on the coast, so yeah, they're still low in stock. But I know a few of the bigger places now have stock, so if I can't get a large order from them, I might have to resort to one of the larger places. Yeah, they're still low. Oh, no, actually, no. I might actually have to do an order pretty soon. There we go. They've got larger orders. But 2 seconds. I'll just see what the where is it? Yeah, so they've got like a set like cricket feed as well.
Right.
So they got like bags of cricket feed. So I just thought I would try one of them out and see what it's like. Give it a whirl. I mean, I like trying new things. So, but yeah, I can always resort back to the old methods. But yeah.
Oh, good stuff. So I feel like we've kind of talked about insects a little bit. Like, I mean, we could probably go into a little bit more detail about like life cycles and stuff like that, but maybe we could leave that for another episode. Maybe we could actually get somebody that's like an insect breeder on or something like that.
Yeah.
That's, you know, does like this is a day job essentially. So that could be something cool to look into.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll just get into a bit of generalized chat about rodents and, you know, kind of snake and large monitor food and all that sort of gear.
Yeah.
So when you dealt with a lot of rodents, you just bought them in. You never bred them or anything like that, did you?
No, I used to buy them off or he still does it, Peter Birch, back in the day, years ago. I had a local guy. He was, before I found Peter Birch, he was a local guy up in Somersby somewhere. I can't remember his name. It was a house phone number. I used to just ring him, tell him what I wanted, and then I'd meet him up in Somersby, and then he'd just give me what I asked for, and then I'd pay him, and I was on my merry way. He was an older fella. I could not remember his name, but yeah, basically used to go for him. And then one day I tried ringing, and I don't know if he changed phone numbers, just didn't there. And then I bit of a look around and this and that, and then someone, it was actually the girl at my local coffee shop. I've walked in one day. This was years ago, my local coffee shop back then, and she had, I think he had flyers, colourful critters, like pamphlets.
Right.
She actually had some of them in the shop, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, what the heck? And I obviously, picked it up, had a look, and then I saw that he did rodents. I was like, beautiful. So I pretty much started to get my rodents from him. And then, I never bred rodents, obviously, like we spoke about before, but I just mix it up, rats, mice. But back then, it was more like, obviously varied diets wasn't such of a big thing back then. It was always like, you get your jungle python, you feed it mice because they were finicky feeders, because I was big into my jungles back in the day. And then you sort of switched them over to rats, and that's basically what you kept them on. Never tried anything else because you didn't want them to get off rats, just in case you could have gone back on rats. So pretty much once they got to a size, I fed them rats, and then they just stayed on rats. But, I had one jungle that was a little bit fussy, and it went through a phase where it refused rats, and so I'd go back to adult mice and try rats again, and then go back to rats. I'm like, oh, beautiful, not changing. Then it'd go fussy again. But that was back in the day where, it was basically everything had to be fed rats. It's because, rats were better, this and that. But, this day and age, there's a lot of variety out there.
There's a lot of variety, that's for sure. And like hearing what some people are like feeding like baby carpets, Owen. It's good to see, but it just makes you kind of think, right? Like, they're not just waiting for that fluffy white mouse to just run past in the wild. So they're going to be striking at all sorts.
Tilapia fillets or something the other day to a carpet?
Yeah, a little goldfish or something. I think he was feeding them guppies or something at one point.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But no, it's good. It's good. It's all variety, right? Like, and anything to get them going. Like, I mean, I had that olive python that was an absolute, awesome snake, but did not want to touch anything but quails.
Yeah.
You know?
But I mean, at the same time, like certain species are probably only eating birds.
Exactly.
You know? But I mean, it's one of those things like, if you can give them a variety, like, I've never really read too many studies on what they're actually eating in the wild, pythons and that. That'd actually be pretty something to look into. I think I might actually do that. But, if you can try and mimic a bit of a broader range of food for them, that's, I mean, they can survive off mice and rats. Obviously,
of course.
Like, look where we are. Look how many years have people been breeding carpets for?
Yeah.
Feeding just rats, or green tree pythons in the US just feeding mice.
Well, you and I can survive off cheeseburgers, mate, but does that mean it's the best thing for us?
That's right. I've survived off cheeseburgers for quite a few years.
So have I, and a few cold ones to boot. But, at the same time, it doesn't mean it's the best thing.
That's right.
Yeah. But no, like, look, I mean, rodents are one of those things that, they tend to be like the mainstay. That's kind of like the cricket or the wood roach of the rodent eating world. But the benefit of them, especially things like mice, is the amount of sizes. And
that's right.
Even getting pinky mice and stuff. Like, I love getting pinky mice for my goannas, just because they're just this tiny little mouthful for them. But at the same time, they're just that little protein hit. They're a little bit of whole prey. Even the fuzzy mice, I'm more than happy to cut up a fuzzy mouse while it's frozen.
Yeah.
Don't do it when it's not frozen. But at the same time, that just gives them something to nibble on that's a bit more, bone, fur, all that sort of stuff. Can pack weight on a lot of animals really quickly. So, that's why you got to be cautious about it with a lot of lizards and stuff like that. But
even your rough knobtails. So, you'd see people feeding them mice, frogs even.
Yep.
Like green tree frogs, you see videos of them devouring like mice, adult mice. Like,
yep. My frillneck loves a fuzzy mouse here and there.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like you said, that's the size is a good thing, having the size variety. But I remember reading years ago people were against feeding birds because obviously, they reckon that the shits would be runny and this and that. But
who cares?
Exactly.
What's it doing for the snake that's beneficial? Think about all that roughage in those feathers and, all the keratin and stuff like that are getting from all those feathers.
There might be a bit of excess stuff that it might not absorb. That's why it might be a bit runny, but.
I mean, it doesn't matter what anything eats. There's always going to be some form of waste out the other end, and whether that's good or bad or whatever, that's.
It's like taking a multivitamin.
Exactly.
Whatever you don't absorb, you go to the toilet, you're like, what this nuclear reactor? But yeah,
all that expensive piss, mate.
Yeah, exactly. But like you're still absorbing some of the stuff in there that you might be lacking in, but
yeah,
I think a varied diet's a good thing if you can do it. I mean, there's no harm in just feeding mice and rats if that's all you. Because some people might not have the stomach to feed.
Oh yeah,
birds and this and that, like, or goats and pigs and
all the good stuff.
Yeah, but yeah.
I think the weirdest thing for me recently, or in the last few years, has been getting used to feeding yabbies out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well,
so
that would be.
Just because it's like this armored creature that walks around with these giant pincers, and you're giving it to an animal, and it's a vicious animal that decides to destroy it in front of you and stuff, and it's it can be a little bit to handle, but that's one of those animals that's a real odd one to kind of feed off, because if a lizard, like a smaller lizard, is eating a cockroach or a cricket or something like that, or even a mealworm, like you barely hear a crunch, or there might be like a little subtle crunch. But when a 4-foot goanna decides to eat a adult yabby, that's a massacre. Like that's pretty full on to kind of take in hand. And, that's one thing that obviously you don't usually get with mice, rats, quails, rabbits, anything like that, because you're feeding frozen thawed or fresh killed or something like that. But yeah, there's a different aspect when you've got an animal actually hunting another animal inside of a cage. It's pretty full on with those bigger invertebrates, I find. But yeah, again, good calcium ratio in those shells.
It's interesting to watch too.
It is. It's interesting to be able to see the fact that, like Loki, for example, is really smart around the claws. Like she knows how to
Yeah,
dodge the claws, or she grabs the claws first and flings the animal, so the rest of it rips off.
yep,
Then it'll eat the claws and then find the animal that doesn't have claws anymore. So
yeah. I was blown away when I first saw it. I was like, wow. Like obviously in the wild, that's probably what they're feeding on. Like you go walk in any of the creeks and that, you find, yabbies everywhere. Like, so obviously you've been up there, I haven't been up there, but they're obviously eating those things in the wild. So they've obviously naturally adapted to work out, hey, stay away from the pointy end and
exactly.
or go there first and dispose of them, and then you got a nice treat. Well, that's like the magpies with the cane toads. Like they've worked out, flip them upside down. You can eat them, but just don't eat that part there. Like,
yeah,
amazing.
Evolution, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Quick bout of evolution with the cane toads, though. Like that's only been 50 years or whatever it's been.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit longer than that. But, like that's relatively short in the scheme of things, really, for animals to be starting to kind of become smart and then, figure that out. Like, I find that incredible.
Yeah, that blew me away when I read that. I was like, wow.
But, something else that people quite often feed is, as we kind of mentioned, like live fish, but in particular for people like that got a lot of tree snakes. I think tree snakes tend to be one of those things where people will quite happily go and put like a big bowl of guppies or goldfish or something
just
like that.
Leave them in there.
Yep, just so they've got something to hunt. I did try that with my brown tree snakes. They had absolutely zero interest in that. They'd much rather a drop-fed mouse. So
yeah, right.
I don't know if that's just because they were captive bred and born, obviously. So then they kind of, only knew mice. They never wanted to take a punt at that. But I know a lot of people with, in particular, like green tree snakes or that kind of group, they tend to have good success with guppies and that sort of thing.
I remember reading that in a couple of books and stuff. But I mean, it's I wonder, another thing too is if they are a bit hard to get going, but that's something they got going on. So that's just something that they've just kind of, left them with instead of trying to get them onto something else. But at the same time too, like, is it just more of a convenience thing, feeding mice and rats for the keeper rather than the animal?
Oh, look, I kind of find it like one of those things that if an animal's eating something, as long as it's eating something, then that makes it good. Like it was always, I mean, I'm pretty lucky that I work at a pet shop, so it wasn't hard for me to get quails for the olive python. But at the same time, it was like, you have to specifically think of that particular animal to make sure that you get his,
quail,
10, 12 quails or whatever for the year to make sure that he's fed.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, in saying that, like, as long as an animal is eating food, I'm happy.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter what it's feeding, as long as it's eating something and it's growing and it's doing what it should be doing. It's awesome. If you can vary it a little bit, that's even better.
But if you can't, you can't at the end of the day too. But I mean, in the wild, they're not going to be too picky with what they get, because obviously if they're too picky, they're not going to last too long. So,
well, that's just it. And then that brings you around to a whole new argument. Should all these things be surviving in captivity?
Yeah, that's an argument for a different day. But, but yeah.
Definitely.
But at the end of the day, it's captivity as well. So,
that's it.
It's not the wild.
That's it. Yeah. So, I mean, let's just throw out some supplies for some food out there while we can to try to give a bit of a shout out to some of the guys that, do breed a bit of these things. Obviously, we mentioned Peter Birch, so that's Rodent Brothers.
Yep.
So you can check him out on Facebook and place an order through there. I want to give Andy from Fuzzy Fox a shout out.
Yeah.
He does a fair few rodents kind of down Illawarra way, down Wollongong. You got supplies such as live foods, bio supplies, just crickets, stuff Cricket like that King. For Cricket King. Yeah. Brian's Worms. I don't know if he's still doing it, but he absolutely pumped out earthworms as well as wood roaches. And I think he also runs the wood roach breeders page in Australia. So he's got plenty of helpful tips there if you do want to start up colonies and stuff like that. Actually, while we're on that topic, that awesome video by Varanabe. If you ever want to breed wood roaches, get on YouTube and look up Varanabe, and he has probably the most well explained wood roach breeding video that I've found. So that's a really good one to see. Yabby Dabby Doo, I believe if I said that correctly, that is Tyson's,
Tyson's
Yabby's supplier. So I've been keen to do an order with him, but I just don't need that many Yabbies at once. That's my only downside. So I think once I get rid of these turtles, maybe I'll start up a Yabby pond.
Can you actually eat Yabbies?
Yeah, you can. He's got human grade ones.
Yeah.
So that'd be something I'd be interested in as well.
Yeah.
Interesting fact: when Loki takes a turd after eating Yabbies, she lays orange turds. And I think that's because the Yabby cooks inside of her. I could be completely wrong, but that's my theory.
Because she's sitting under the basking light. That's probably 40 plus degrees.
Yeah, probably and some. Yeah, Anyway, little theory there. I asked Tyson. He reckons the same thing happens with Doc. So
interesting. Yeah.
I'd like to know some science behind that. So if you do know more about why that happens, I'd love to know. What else have we got?
There's heaps out there. There's heaps of
tons of rodent suppliers. I think Top End Pythons still do rodents as well. Yeah. They're Sydney-based guys.
There's a lot less insect suppliers I found than there is rodent suppliers. Like most major areas have probably a rodent supplier in that area.
Yeah, of course.
But when it comes to bugs, it's a little bit or quantity of bugs anyway.
Especially at the moment after that shortage.
I noticed a lot of the larger ones are kind of back up and running now at full swing. So, but
yeah, I know Pisces still doesn't have their woodies available yet, but which is kind of surprising because you'd think that'd be so easy to get back up and running versus crickets. I was more worried about the fact that when they had that cricket shortage that that would take them longer to bounce back from that. But anyway, interesting stuff. But no, I don't know, mate. Have you got anything else you want to kind of add to this?
Not really. Like I said, breeding this kind of stuff, and that's not really my forte. I was just more of I feed it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could get pretty into depth with nutrient values and this and that, but like you said, it'd be good to have someone on that's in that field that probably wouldn't butcher it as much as us mugs.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I could probably go further into rodent breeding and stuff like that, but I feel like I'd kind of want to have somebody on that does it on a mass scale.
Yeah.
That has had years of experience. Like maybe we could get Peter on or Daz on or something like that again, and to talk about that sort of stuff. And it'd be cool to kind of tee up somebody that was like a bug breeder at the same time to see if we could kind of get like a bit of a round table or something happening with actually maintaining these animals as like a rotational stock essentially to keep reptiles supplied. So that'll be something that maybe we look into in the future.
Yeah, definitely.
But no, all right, mate. Well, if you're happy, we'll sign it off and call it a night and hit the sack. Right, well, guys, we'd like to say a massive thanks to Eric and Owen and the rest of the MPR crew for having us. If you'd like to contact them, it's best to find them at moreliapythonradio.net and email them at info@moreliapythonradio.net. Make sure to follow the MPR Network on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, all at MPR Network. As far as contacting us in our social media platforms, you can email us at australianherpetoculture@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Make sure to check out our Teespring store for podcast merch. The link is on the Facebook page. To see more of what Jason is doing, make sure to follow him on Facebook and Instagram at The Gecko Effect. For myself, you can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Patreon, and Teespring under Beat Your Scaly Beasts. We hope to have you back next week for another episode of the Australian Herpetoculture podcast. Good night, guys.
Good night.